So hi guys, it's our 1000 subscribers question and answers, and I'm really excited to answer the questions some of you had asked earlier on that you sent through my mail or you put in the comment section under the particular post where I requested for questions. So let's dive right into it. The first question I have here is how I managed to have time for other things aside school. Now I think this centered largely on effective planning and time management. I've made videos on planning and time management on this channel. If you want to learn all the tips and the tricks that I use to successfully plan and manage my time in medical school, you can check them out. They'll pop up on the channel right about now. Now, I'll just make a comment about planning. I used to have this book in school that most of my colleagues knew no one would touch because I called it a private planner. Now, everything I had to do, including academics, non-academics, personal stuff, was all in that book. Sometimes it was so detailed with timelines attached on specific days, and I usually plan them monthly. I would gift it typically to one of my favorite mentees when I'm leaving a particular class, just to inspire them and show them what planning their way through that level would look like. So planning and time management helped me a lot. Are flashcards a waste of time? What are the other methods of spaced repetition? Definitely flashcards aren't a waste of time. I saw it work magic for me, particularly my final year in a course we call Preventive and Social Medicine or Community Medicine in some schools or Public Health in other settings. It's very, very, very effective. Using it for spaced repetition or active recall, they come very handy. Now, other methods you could apply for spaced repetition would include rereading, that's repeated reading over and over again with time intervals between them, or question and answers. If you want to watch a video on active recall and also the spaced repetition pattern of reading, it's going to pop up right about now on this channel because I've made videos on them as well. How do you create flashcards and study them? Okay, I think this question focuses more on the studying of them, but let me just answer the question on how to create flashcards. You can either do manual flashcards or digital flashcards. Manual flashcards can be done in a notebook. It can be done with these sticky pads that we typically use to make notes of things that we shouldn't forget. In front, you have the question, just behind it, you put the answer. But I prefer the digital ones because you can synchronize it across all your devices, your laptop, your phones. You can be in the bus and you're reviewing material, and all of the benefits that come with it. So that's how to create. For reviewing them, create dedicated days or time that is just set for flashcard review. This can be every Saturday. You're not going to be reading any material passively. It would just be to review all the flashcards you've made in the week past, in the month past, and all that. So setting dedicated time would really help you with reviewing the flashcards that you've set. Do I jot while studying? How did I cope during professional exams? Now it depends. Sometimes I took down notes. Most times I did not. But when I was taking notes, I wasn't recopying the entire material. It's either I was creating mnemonics, I was making associations of what I was reading with something else that will help me remember it, or I was taking note of extremely important concepts that I perceive to be extremely important. I'll put them down, I'll jot them down. So those were the things that I typically would make notes of or make notes about. When did I figure out the study techniques that worked for me? I would say the first part of this was in my second year, and the other half of it came in my fourth year. My second year, I understood that repetition was very useful to me. The more I read something, the more I remember. So I'll typically go as much as 4 or 5 times to study a material. However, in my fourth year, I realized that just repetition wasn't going to do it for me because I would not have enough time to read sometimes as much as 4 or 5 times. So I had to develop other strategies that would help me retain information. Now, I call this RAM. Repetition, association, and mnemonics. They were the bedrock of my success in fourth year. I associated a lot. I made a lot of mnemonics. Talk about pharmacology, those drugs, it can be crazy. So those were the 2 focal points for me. And moving on from that point forward, every other thing just fell in place. Did I ever burn out as a medical student, and how did I handle it? Okay, now this is quite a hilarious question. Some of you might think that gospel has superpowers. I am just like you, really. I had moments where, I would say I had burnout, and I'll reach out to my mentors or my friends and lay my complaints there. You may not see it on my face, but definitely I had those moments. So, what would I do? I'll pray for strength, I'll sleep, I'll take a rest or take a break from reading for a couple of hours, 24 hours, 48 hours. I'll review my totems. Totems were the reasons why I was in that journey in the first place, the reasons why I was in that class, my goals, my plans, my aspirations, just to give me this sense of inspiration and motivation all over again. And then sometimes I'll just leave the school environment for the weekend, go to the place where I had to stay in town, and come back, and I'm back on track. So really it just boils down to relaxing and tapping strength from the divine if you believe in God. What would I change if I were to start medical school all over again? I think I'll change three things. The first would be I would probably attend a private school or school abroad, because I spent 8 years in school instead of 6 years, and that wasted some part of my time. I'll join CMDA. CMDA means Christian Medical and Dental Association of Nigeria. I'll join CMDA actively from my year one. I actively became a participant in year two, but I think going back, I'll join from year one. And the final thing is I'll care less about what people would say from the start. A lot of things people said then used to get to me and affect me. I can't go into all the details now, but I got over that sometime after my fourth year. You can imagine, after 4 years. So I'd care less about what people say. Definitely, that's something that I'll change. How did I manage multiple responsibilities as a medical student? Now, the first was God's grace, because, guy, looking back sometimes, my mind is blown. I cannot fathom some of the things that I carried alongside medical school. It's just overwhelming thinking about it. So I knew God's grace and strength was there to lift me and to carry me through the very tight and difficult moments. Now, hard work. One of my mentors had a slogan then that said, work must be done. You have to go above and beyond. Those 8 years in medical school, I was hitting the road consistently. It was a lot of work, but I'm happy. I have no regrets. The hard work paid off eventually, and I keep reaping the dividends of the hard work that I put in from medical school. Now, I can't undermine the role people played: my friends, my mentees, my mentors, brethren, and co-leaders, the persons I worked with all through my time in medical school. So all of these factors helped me manage the responsibilities I had to take care of during medical school. What would I tell the medical student who studies for long hours but still gets average result? I'll tell you two things. Number one, do not back down. Number two, identify where you are getting it wrong and pay the non-negotiable price to get it right. Number one, do not back down. Number two, identify where you are getting it wrong and pay the non-negotiable price to get it right. Did I see the best graduating student coming? Did I work for it? Yes, I saw it coming. At some point, it became clearer that this was something I could really reach out to and lay hold of. And yes, I aimed at it. God helped me, blessed my efforts, and I achieved it. I know maybe you would expect me to say, oh, it happened accidentally and all of that. No, that's not the case. I do not believe that every kind of success is accidental. Maybe sometimes people stumble on being successful, but sustaining it to the point that you are giving a reward, a crown for it, takes a level of consistency and intentionality. So I did put in the effort. Other people did. Some people got other awards, but I was just graced and favored to be the overall best student from my set. How long on average did I read as a medical student? Simply, it's a straightforward answer. The goal was at least 6 to 8 hours every day. Some days were more, significantly more, like weekends or when I was preparing for professional exams. Some days were significantly less, like when I had long meetings to attend or travel for conferences or be away from school. I didn't keep up, but generally on the average 6 to 8 hours every day. That was the goal, that was the target. What were my mistakes from preclinical years of medical school? I think I've stated one of it already. Now, this was giving too much credence to what people say. Having a cycle that wasn't the best for me. You know this thing about saying if you're the fifth person in a cycle of maybe fools or wise persons or rich persons, you eventually become what that group of persons, look like. So I was probably the most motivated in my group. I struggled initially then because my friends maybe were not really, interested in living a morally right life in line with the precepts and the tenets of God. So, but then over time, it all changed. Yeah. As I evolved in medical school, my circle of friends changed and all of that. And then also, I think when I started school, I was a bit competitive and selfish. And that wasn't the best. It quickly changed though as I became more tuned into working with God. Some of those things just died off naturally. And I'm grateful that God worked on my heart. But being competitive and being selfish is a mistake I made in the earlier part of my medical school. What was my greatest inspiration? I really wanted to represent God in my academics, to be a reference point for kingdom excellence. Yes, that was my biggest inspiration. I'm answering this question directly. Now, I had other factors that motivated me, but my biggest inspiration was, okay, while I'm here in the school, I just want to be a symbol of excellence, standing for God, because I know that God is largely about, excellence when it comes to do with our work and the products of our life. So I just made myself available for Him to find an expression in that regard. A typical day for me as a medical student would probably be a triangle. It's either school, fellowship, or studying. Either of these. How did I cope with handling procrastination, indiscipline, and friends? I stopped negotiating with anything that qualified as a distraction for me. That's how I dealt with procrastination. I lived outside my comfort zone and made it a habit. This might include the fact that I wasn't sleeping in my room largely for weeks, for months while I was in school. And then also I transformed or changed my circle of friends, and that reflected as I was also transforming myself. So you attract what you're like, essentially. So these were some of the things that helped me cope with procrastination, indiscipline, and having friends that are not so good for myself around me. How many times did I cover my course outlines and how did I achieve that? In most instances, I covered my course outlines at least 3 times. There were a few times I wasn't able to keep with this, but largely that was the case. And a huge part that played in this is speed reading. I've made a video on speed reading. You'll see it pop on the screen right about now. Watch it if you want to learn how I read at least 3 textbooks and also reviewed all of them 3 times, all through my stay in medical school. How did I stay motivated in medical school? My vision was clear. In each class, most times I was aiming for the best. I was aiming for a distinction. And also I had people looking up to me that I knew failing was not an option. I would always give my best to make sure I make God proud and I make those who look to me proud. How to find balance with medical school and extracurricular activities. Now, balance is sometimes a myth. How do you define it? But what I'm going to say is, based on the priorities on different seasons of the medical school, you should choose what you will give more time to. That's a broad statement. I would not want to go into specific details now. Maybe on another day, I will just dedicate a particular video to answering that question on balance. Did I ever feel like not studying? What usually gets me back on? Yes, there were moments where I felt like not studying. But what would typically help me get back on track is I had a dream, and I was always going to hold on to that dream and chase it with everything that I had in me. Well, what's next for me? We know in parts, we see in parts. I know parts of what's next for me. But by and large, stick around. God is in this story. I'm just getting started. So thank you for being a part of this channel so far. We are at 1,487 as at the moment I shoot this video. I know in the coming weeks, months, years, we'll go into hundreds of thousands and millions and all that. So stick around. There's a lot of growth to do. There's a lot of learning for us to learn together. And I guess that'll be it for today. I'll see you next time. I remain Gospel, and thank you for watching.